few winters ago, I took a temporary contract maintaining automated weather stations along the Labrador coast. Most of the work was dull. Fly into a small community, load replacement sensors into a snowmobile or tracked ATV depending on conditions, swap out frozen equipment, log the readings, head back before dark. One February morning, I unlocked a weather station about 80 kilometers outside Nain and found a handwritten note folded inside the instrument cabinet. It wasn't addressed to anyone. It simply said, "If you're reading this, they logged the wrong station." I assumed another technician was joking around. There were only a handful of us covering that region, and everyone liked practical jokes when we'd cross paths. Still, the note bothered me because nobody should have been inside that cabinet since my last visit. I slipped it into my pocket and finished replacing an iced-over wind sensor. Back at the regional office, I mentioned it to the dispatcher. She looked confused. That station wasn't scheduled this month. It was on my work order. She turned her monitor toward me. According to their system, I'd service station LB 214. My paperwork said LB 241. The numbers were almost identical. She blamed a data entry mistake, updated the file, and everyone moved on. Except I couldn't, because I'd never seen a station numbered 214. The coordinates weren't even close. A week later, another assignment came through after a blizzard damaged several remote installations. Again, my paperwork listed LB 241. The GPS route loaded automatically into the company tablet. About halfway there, I noticed the route wasn't following the coordinates printed on the page. The tablet wanted me farther north. I figured the map database had cached the previous trip, so I ignored it and entered the printed coordinates manually. When I reached the station, there was fresh snow covering everything except one narrow trail leading behind the instrument tower. Snowmobiles leave obvious tracks. These weren't snowmobile tracks. It looked like someone had dragged a heavy plastic sled by hand. The trail disappeared toward a frozen inlet. I followed it for maybe 200 meters before the wind erased it completely. There wasn't another person anywhere. At least none that I could see. Inside the weather station cabinet sat another folded note. Different handwriting. "You came back." I checked every corner of the enclosure. Nothing. No footprints besides my own. I drove straight back before finishing my remaining inspections. The office took the notes more seriously this time. Not because of what they said, because weather stations are locked with restricted keys. Only employees and a few contractors have access. Management changed the lock cylinders and told everyone to report unusual activity. A month passed. Then the RCMP visited our office. Someone had discovered abandoned fuel drums and food containers hidden near an old exploration camp several kilometers north of one of our weather stations. The officers weren't accusing anyone. They simply wanted maintenance records showing who had been working in the area. Looking over their map, I noticed something strange. The camp they were investigating sat much closer to Station 214 than 241. I asked where Station 214 was. The officer frowned. There isn't one. I looked at our maintenance supervisor. He quietly said, "Not anymore." Years earlier, before my contract started, another automated station had existed farther north. Coastal erosion threatened the foundation. The equipment was removed. The location was deleted from active databases. It wasn't supposed to appear anywhere, except somehow it kept appearing on my paperwork. The supervisor blamed legacy software pulling archived records whenever similar station numbers were entered. It sounded reasonable until I requested the archived file. There wasn't one. Station 214 had been erased completely except for a billing reference from almost 10 years earlier. No maintenance logs. No removal report. Nothing explaining who dismantled it. Spring arrived, and helicopter access replaced snowmobiles. During one flight, the pilot pointed toward an isolated gravel ridge. "You see that antenna? There wasn't supposed to be one." Through the window, I spotted what looked exactly like an automated weather mast. Silver tower, wind vane, solar panel. The same equipment we installed everywhere else. I marked the location. When we landed nearby, there was no weather station. Only 4 anchor bolts sticking out of the rock where something heavy had once been mounted. The pilot insisted we'd both seen it. Heat shimmer couldn't explain it. It was barely above freezing. On the flight home, he admitted something. Years before, he'd flown a removal crew to dismantle an old weather station after receiving instructions from headquarters. They arrived. The foundation was empty. No tower, no batteries, no equipment, just cut cables. They assumed another crew had beaten them there. Head office assumed the helicopter crew had removed it. Everyone signed paperwork based on what they believed someone else had done. No investigation followed. Months later, I received one final assignment before my contract ended. Another technician, and I compared our printed work orders over coffee. Mine listed station 241. His listed station 214. We laughed because we'd both heard the stories by then. When we entered the job numbers into our tablets, both routes navigated to exactly the same coordinates. Different station numbers, same destination. When we arrived, the cabinet door was already open. Inside was nothing except a maintenance checklist dated 11 years earlier. Every inspection box had been completed. At the bottom was a technician's signature none of us recognized. Below it, in different handwriting, someone had written one sentence: "Stop correcting the paperwork." The RCMP eventually confirmed people had been using abandoned camps along parts of the coast to move stolen fuel and supplies between boats without attracting attention. Whether those camps had anything to do with the disappearing station, nobody could tell me. Maybe someone kept accessing our equipment because they knew technicians rarely questioned old records. Maybe decades of database migrations buried an administrative mistake nobody wanted to untangle. Or maybe the missing weather station was simply removed so poorly that every department believed another office had handled it. I still have the first note tucked inside a folder at home. The paper has yellowed around the folds. Every few years I unfold it just to make sure I remembered the wording correctly. I always do. If you're reading this, they logged the wrong station.